In this video, I'll show you how to set up a system that tracks inventory changes for parts of a product when you sell that actual product. The first customer I worked with this kind of a system was a commercial bakery. So they bake lots of batches of different recipes, and with each recipe, there's a certain number of eggs, cups of flour, etc. So they just want to know how many batches they have baked, and then from that, be able to automatically calculate how many eggs, how much flour, etc. has been consumed. Now, when you're baking, you're dealing with all kinds of different units. You've got grams, ounces, liters, and you've got to convert them all to a common format. That's a little more complicated than we need to deal with today. So I'm going to use a little bit of a simpler example for our tutorial today. I just bought these awesome colored Allen keys, and so I want to pretend that we are the reseller of these Allen keys. So in this kit, there are 9 Allen keys total. There are 6 smaller ones and 3 larger ones. And so to make up a set like this, if I was reselling them and I bought them all in individual parts, I would need to put all 9 of them together, and maybe I would sell a couple different, kind of sets. So maybe I'd just sell the small set, so these 6 as a called small set, and then I could have the full set, which is all 9, and then I might also sell, like individual ones. And so how can I create a system where I have these different sets, and rather than, when I sell each set, I don't want to have to individually enter 1.5 millimeter, 2.5 millimeter. That would take forever. I just want to say I sold a small set and then have the inventory remove all 6 of these individual sizes from my inventory. Okay, so that's the intro. Let's hop into the tutorial. And as usual, if you want to download a template of the inventory that we create today, you can find it in the video description below. All right, so we're gonna start with these 3 tables here. And if you have never created an inventory before, you might actually wanna start with the first video that I created, the right way to build an inventory in Airtable, that will show you kind of the basic format of how to set up a system where you are correctly logging the incoming and outgoing products, and then combining that information to get your value of what's in stock. We are going to set up a very similar system here, but it's just a little bit more complicated because it's got that extra layer of these products that are a combination of multiple parts. So this has an added layer, but this still really follows the same rules as my first simple inventory. We need to make sure that we are logging things coming in and logging things going out, and then we can use Airtable to do the math to see what the balance between those is. And so what I've created to start out with is this parts table. So these are all our parts. These are each of our individual Allen keys here. We've got 9 different sizes, and then so we're just tracking size, color, the product type, and then what we want to end up with at the end. So our end result is to get the total units sold, total units received, and then from those to calculate what's in stock. And I've created 2 other tables to start us out with. So one is the products table. And so this is a list of 4 different products that we're going to sell that are different combinations of the Allen keys, right, that we have as parts. And so we're actually going to define, what's in each set. But for now, I just have a list of products with a name and the current price I'm selling them for. And then in our third table here, this is our received table. So in this parts received table, we've got a product ID that exactly matches the product ID. And the other things here, we've got a quantity. We're buying these wholesale, I'm assuming. So we buy, hundreds of parts at a time. Each row is just one type of wrench. So a 4 millimeter, 2.5 millimeter, etc. And in order to connect these back to the parts table, because this column exactly matches the first column in the parts table, I can go ahead and open this up and change it from a single line text field to link to another record. And I'm going to link it to parts here. And I actually want to untoggle this allow linking to multiple records because I just want to have one type of wrench per row. I'll click save, confirm change, and we'll skip the lookup fields. And so now you can see these are all outlined in a nice little blue rectangle. And if I go over to the parts table, I can see that it's created a new field here, a new column that shows all of the parts that have been received, that correspond with each type of wrench. And because we have this linked now, we can look up the quantities in the parts received. Right here, we can look up these quantities and add them up for each wrench. So back in parts, I'm going to update this column because this is the one that's going to hold that information. So when I open this up, I'm going to change it to a roll-up field type. And so the roll-up is going to look in the parts received. So they already guessed that we want to look up the parts received because it's the only linked table at the moment. And then within the parts received table, we want to add up the quantity. So the quantity of the parts that we received. And then we have to write a little formula here to tell it how we want to add that up. We just want to sum all of the values. So that's exactly what we're going to put here. Sum with values in parentheses, hit save. And so that nicely tells us how many units we've received of each wrench. And again, I went a little bit fast through that. If you want to learn that process better, watch my first video, The Right Way to Build an Inventory in Airtable, and I go through that in detail in that video. So now we want to get this one, right? The total units sold, but this is a little bit harder because first we need to figure out what units, right? Which wrenches are in each set, and then link the sets to orders that people are going to place, and then somehow link that back to this total units sold so that it automatically updates when someone places an order. And the magic table that is going to allow us to do this is often called a junction table. So the junction table is going to show us the relationship between parts and products. And so actually I'm just going to create a new table and I'm going to call it parts times products. All right, and let's delete these example fields here. And you probably guessed, because this table is called parts times products, we're going to create a link to parts and we're going to create a link to products. So in this first one here, I'll just start typing parts and automatically it's going to guess that I want to create a new link record to the parts table. So I'll click that. And I'm not going to allow linking to multiple records. I just want to link to one record per row. Create field. I'm going to skip lookup fields. And you'll notice that I didn't name it because I knew it was going to name it the accurate thing to name it, which is parts, since it's linking to the parts table. And so now let's do the same exact thing for products. So we'll add a field, start typing products. Now we can link to products. Do not allow linking to multiple records, create. And then the last field I'm going to make is a quantity field. So we'll call that quantity, and this is going to be a number field. We'll make it an integer. So in this table, we need to designate all of the different parts that are in each product. And actually, because of that kind of hierarchy, let's move the products to be first. And so for this first one here, I'm just going to leave the the primary field blank for now. We can create a formula that combines some of these other pieces once we've got some data in here. But so for products, let's choose the full set first, right? So we're linked to the products table. I can just choose full set now. And so really what I need to do is, because I know there are 9 parts in the full set, I need to create 9 records here. So I'll go ahead and drag this down for 9 records. And then I'm going to find each one of these parts and create a row for each one. So that's 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3 millimeter, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10. And we've got a quantity here for this full set. There's just going to be 1 of each, right? So I can just put 1 and go ahead and copy that down. Fun fact, if you didn't already know, you can copy a value down just by clicking on this little box here and then dragging down. And now that we've got our data in here, let me paste in a formula for the name, the primary field here. So I'll open this up, change it to a formula. And then I'm going to paste this in, and actually I need to update these names a little bit. So this is just a simple formula that is concatenating the product, parts, and quantity with a couple little punctuations just to make it look pretty. So if I click save here, confirm, then it's going to, just add this all together and say, okay, this record here is indicating something that's in the full set that has a white 1.5 millimeter metric hex wrench, and it's one each, meaning there's only one of it in the set. And as always, our most important thing for the primary field is that it is unique. And this is not required, but it is a best practice that we don't want to run into situations where we are creating more records that have the same exact name. And so for here, I don't think we will, because it's always going to be, we're always only going to have one record that has a product, a specific product, and a specific part, right? Because we don't need to create multiple rows of the same part within a product. So now we've got our full set. Let's create one more. Let's do the small set, which is just going to be, these smaller 6. So I'll create a new one, small set, and that's going to be all these 6 smaller ones. So I'll drag small set down. Then I've got the 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 4, and the 5. And those are all just one each as well. And now our parts times products table is actually looking great. The last thing I'm going to do is group it by the product. This just makes it nice and clean so we can see, okay, these are the things that we have in our full set. These are the things that we have in our small set. So we're done with this table for now. The next table and the last table we're going to create is the orders table. So this is going to be where we actually say, okay, a person bought 1 full set or 2 full sets, and then that's the thing that's actually going to tell Airtable what it needs to know to adjust our parts inventory appropriately based on that. So create a new table, call this orders, delete the example fields, and then we'll make a field for the product quantity. So how many sets are in this order? It's going to be a number. Then we'll create a link to product. And we'll just, again, untoggle this box to just make sure we link to 1 record per row. And then we'll create a price per product. That's a currency field. A total order price. This is going to be a formula. And it's just the quantity, product quantity, times the price per product. Format that as currency. And then lastly, we'll do a date sold. For the primary field, I'm going to paste in a formula for that. So we'll change this to a formula, paste this in. And so if you want to recreate this, you can pause the screen right here. It looks complicated. It's not actually that complicated. It's just combining the product quantity, products, and then the date into one line. But the reason why it's got this if statement wrapping it is because I just wanted to, if there are more than one product, I want to add an S on the end, just make it look cleaner that way. So again, you can pause it and copy that if you want. Click save here, confirm. And it's going to show us an error message for now because we haven't entered any data yet. So let's add a couple orders. I'm going to make 1 order for 2. Let's do 2 full sets. And the price, they're going to be $50 each. And the date is today. And so we can see here now our name says 2 full sets. And the cost is 2 times $50 is $100. Let's also do 2 small sets. Those are $28 each, say. And we'll just delete this 3rd one for now. All right, so now that we have all of our tables created, we need to create the kind of daisy chain that we are gonna use to bring this quantity of sets back to our parts inventory at the beginning. And I wanna actually just reorder these a little bit in kind of chronological order of the kind of materials flow. So let's move parts received to the beginning. So parts received into our parts inventory. And then we've got our parts times products, and then into the products, and then into the orders. So now we're going to kind of work in the reverse order, back from the 2 orders that we just placed. And what we're going to be bringing back is the quantity, these quantities here. So if I go back into products now, I'm going to create a roll-up field to bring those quantities back in to see, how many overall small sets, full sets, etc. that we have sold. So let's create a new field, and we'll call this total products sold. And this is going to be a roll-up field. And the roll-up is going to look in the orders table and roll up the quantity, the product quantity. And we want to use a simple sum of the values. So then I'll create the field. And now we can see that, yeah, we sold 2 small sets and 2 full sets. And just to, test that we're doing everything right, let's sell another 2 full sets here for $50 each. And I'll go back into products now, and I can see, yep, I've sold 4 full sets and 2 small sets. That's all we're going to do in the products table. But now that we have these totals here, we can now bring these totals into our parts times products table. So let's open that one up, and I'll create a new field here. And this field is going to be called line item quantity sold. And I'm calling this the line item quantity because this is, going to show us for each row. So like, for example, for this 3mm metric hex wrench in the full set, how many of those have we sold in the full set? It's not all of the pink 3mm hex wrenches. It's only the ones that are in the full set. And there's also going to be a line item for those same wrenches in the small set. So that's why I say line item versus just saying quantity sold. And so now I'm going to create a roll up here. And this is going to roll up the products table and the total products sold roll up that we just created right in that products table. And again, we'll sum the values. Create. And so now we can see here, because there were just 1 wrench in each set and we sold 4 of the full sets, then there's 4 of each of these that were sold. Now we do actually have to create one more field because, this is only working because all of these quantities are 1. Let's say there were 2 1.5mm wrenches in each full set. We would need this obviously to update, right? So change this back to a 1. So I'm going to create a new field here. This one's going to be called total part quantity. It's a formula, and we're going to multiply the quantity, this quantity here, times the line item quantity. Create. So now here, if I have a set that has multiple of the same part in it, if I change this to a 2, then it's going to change this one to an 8 here. So that's important for us to have. Change that back to a 1. And this formula that we just wrote is the actual total quantity of all the parts that we have sold so far. So this is the number that we've been trying to get to the whole time. But because we also, again, have, the same pink 3mm hex wrench in a full set and a small set, and we still need to aggregate those one more time, right? And that's going to be in our original table in the parts inventory. So right here in our total units sold, we can now open this up and change it to a roll-up. And we want to roll up the parts times products. And in here, the total part quantity, and to sum the values. Save. And we can see here that we've sold 6 each of the small parts because they were in all 6 sets that we sold, right? They were in the 4 full sets, and then they were in the 2 small sets. And then we've sold 4 each of the larger 3 because those are just in the full sets, and we've sold only 4 full sets. And let's drag this over. So it's going to be received minus sold. So our in stock, we can convert to a formula. And then we'll say total units received minus total units sold. And voila, that's it. This is our in stock that will update when we sell lots of sets. So let's give it one last test. I can see that we have 196 red 6mm hex wrenches. And so let's see if we can take 100 off of that. That's going to be 100 full sets, I guess, is the only, right? That's the only one that has these in it. So let's go to the orders here, and we'll say that we sold 100 full sets. Obviously, this is going to change the inventory values of all the parts, but just so we can reference one of them. And we'll sell those for $50 each again. That was a big order. And now if I go back to the parts table, I can see that we are now down to 96 on this inventory item. So it's working great. So congratulations on getting through that. This is a fairly complex system, but as you can see that as we went through each piece, each table has a very specific purpose, and it really needs to be there to complete the whole system. One thing that I really recommend doing when you create a system like this is to create a base schema that's really going to help you visualize what's going on here. So we're going to do that real quick. I'm going to open up the extensions in the upper right-hand corner here, add an extension, and then choose the base schema extension. Click add, and we get this big nest of different lines here. If I open up the gear in the top right corner, I can actually untoggle every toggle except for the first one. And that's because, all those different lines we're showing are formulas and roll-ups. And what I really just want to know is what are the linked record relationships. So I'll click done here, and then I'm going to drag these, so we can drag these around, and I'm going to drag them in the same order of the kind of chain of actions that we organized them into in the tables. So let's take the parts received first, and the parts. We'll zoom out a little bit. Then we've got parts times products. We've got products, and then we've got orders. And you can see that once we put them into order, we have this nice clean flow of information that's starting with parts received, flowing into parts times products, then the products, and then the orders. And this is like we always want to get here. It can be so confusing when you're just trying to get something to work. And often when you're just trying to get it to work, you kind of do a bunch of stuff and you get the number that you were looking for, but you're not quite sure how you got there. And for something that's as important as tracking your inventory system, you really want to understand how your system works so that you have trust that it's doing what you need it to. So I always recommend creating the schema for that purpose. And that concludes our tutorial on creating a recipe type inventory system. Don't forget to download the template in the video description if you would like to have it. And if you want to keep making your inventory system better, I recommend checking out this video, which shows you how to take the current price that you're selling your products for and make sure that accurately translates into each order that you can see, back in the parts inventory. If I were to create a roll up that shows all of the income I've generated, that it's not pulling from old prices every time I change a price, that we actually update the price in real time and always log the correct price every time we make a product sale. So if you're interested in that, check out this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.